In this review, we drill down on a model from the foundation sector. There's a picture of the machine on the box, and it's the RG21T from RTG, which is a Bauer company. On the box, the machine is described as a pile driver with a telescopic leader, and down one side there is some technical information about the real machine. If we go to the end, we see the model maker is Bymo, and it's model number 25028/1. Straight away the box flies onto the weighbridge, and it's nearly 3 pounds, which is 1.35 kilograms. After the weigh-in, it's time to open the box and see what's inside. There's no surprise to see expanded polystyrene trays, and in this case the top is marked bottom, and if we go to the bottom we'll find it's the top. It looks like there's space for an instruction book, but none were included with the review model, and thankfully we don't need instructions to cut the tape. Lifting the lid was a little bit trickier than usual, and that's because the top of the model was a tight fit in the top tray. After that we see soft paper, and then we can lift the model carefully out. There was an unusual problem on the review model, and that is that 2 ropes from the underside of the sledge had not been connected to the leader. Maybe that was just forgotten, or maybe the person in the factory just gave up because it's a difficult connection to make. It looks like it should be glued into the leader, but it's an exact length. One solution is to refix longer ropes, but here we'll do it a different way and insert a steel pin. That can then be glued into place, and once that's done, it's easier to glue the end of the rope to the steel pin. And here we can see the final arrangement, which had to be done on both sides of the model. The first thing we'll do is to fit some mirrors, and the first one goes outside the cab, but you do need some plastic putty or something to keep the mirror in place. On the other side of the model, things are easier because the mirror clips on to the ladder, and that's a nice positive connection which is easy enough to make. And then you can rotate the mirror as you need. One other thing to fit is a bar which looks like it has cameras and lights on it. The first display option you have for the model is as a transport load, and having delivered the machine to site, we'll now set it up ready for work. The first feature the model has is extendable track frames, so you can open them up from a narrow transport position into a wider working configuration. Small pins are included in a separate bag, and these can be used to lock the track frames into position. With that done, we can raise the leader into a vertical position, and for this the hydraulics rotate it through 90 degrees, and they can also lift the whole arrangement up. But at this stage we'll just move on to add a walkway outside the cab, and it's good that that is separate so it doesn't affect the transportation width. Now we can walk round to the back of the machine to add on the counterweight. It is made up of 4 separate parts, and we'll start by just adding a couple of the sections, and after a bit of manipulation it clips into place. And then you can add on the rest of the counterweight. At the top of the leader, the auxiliary winch can be moved forward into an operating position, and then we can move on to add on the big vibrator. For this you need to raise the telescopic leader a bit, and then you can fit the vibrator on at the bottom. And when it's done right, it will slide up and down the leader. The leader is moved by the sledge, and we can drop that down on top of the vibrator, and then the two are connected by using a long steel pin. So that's the basic assembly of the model complete. So let's get it back on the weighbridge, and it comes in at about 2 pounds 8 ounces, or 1.14 kilograms. The leader is mounted on a rotating bearing, so it gives flexibility in how the machine positions piles. And there are more pins included with the model, and we'll guess that they are used to lock the position of the rotation. To drive a new pair of piles, you can attach them to the vibrator using the chains that are included, and then raise them up on the telescopic leader. You can lock the leader in position at any extension by tightening up a screw. Looking underneath the model, you can see the crawler tracks, which are metal. And apart from that, there's little detailing on the underside. The Bymo name and model number is cast in. Right side up and we can see the tracks again. And the track frames are detailed, including with tiny steps. Looking between the tracks, there's also some detailing to be seen, including a hitch point. And if we move to the cab, it has a very finely detailed mesh roof. There's a windscreen wiper, and the grab rail is made of metal. And there's some finer detailing in terms of the window frames. Small graphics have also been applied. There are more graphics behind the cab, including the machine number, and the panel handles are detailed. The counterweight sections are a detailed casting, and there's another warning graphic at the bottom. And at the top, details include a video camera and beacon light. On the opposite side, there are more warning graphics, and all of the panel detailing looks convincing. At the front, there's a ladder which rises up, and there's a textured surface on top. There's a very nice mesh grille above one of the enclosures and more textured surfaces. And there are a couple of fan enclosures which are detailed simply within the casting. Soft hydraulic hoses run to the front, and the support for the telescopic leader is a complex piece of modelling. And a bank of hydraulic hoses for the vibrator runs to the top. The leader support and all of the main leader components are modelled in metal, and all of the tiny pulleys on the model are also metal. A very well detailed part of the model is the vibrator, and a good use has been made of highlighting. Included with the model are a couple of interlocking sheet piles, although they would have looked better in black or rust coloured. The complexity of the model continues at the top, with the hydraulic hoses running over. The auxiliary winch is also modelled in detail, and there's a small metal hook at the end. We look again underneath the model, and the crawler tracks can be rolled, although they're a little bit stiff. And also looking underneath, we can see how the extending track frames work, and they give you a significantly wider base. An interesting and unusual feature is the tilting panel on one side, and that's probably done to enable more efficient cooling of the engine area. It's slightly tricky to get open, but when you get it open you can see some detail inside. Another part where you can get some functionality is the winch. There's not much rope, but with care you can wind it in and extend it. So, with the telescopic leader fully extended, let's do a dim check. And to the top, it is 19 inches or about 49 centimetres. Another way you can pose the model is with the piles partially driven. This is a surprisingly complex model of the RT21T by Bymo. It has a high standard of detailing, and there's a surprising amount of functionality to be discovered. It is an impressive looking model, and in part machines from the foundation sector usually are. It's flexible and can be used as a transport load, and overall the model is rated as excellent.